Hi all, welcome to another video lecture. In this video lecture, we are going to discuss about the filter function, map function, reduce function and lambda function in Python. So before jumping on to these functions, let us go ahead and let us discuss on what are functions. Okay. So function is a block of reusable code that performs a specific task. You can define it once and use it many times, which can make your code clean, readable and modular. So the way how we create a function generally is by using this def keyword, and then we pass in the function name, let us say func. Then inside the brackets we go ahead and we pass in the arguments. So let us say I'm going to pass in a variable known as x, and inside this we are going to go ahead and going to pass the return keyword. Here in between the return and this function we write the lines of code, right? Line of code. So let's say, for example, this func keyword, this func function, right, is going to find out whether this number is odd or even. Okay, so what we are going to return simply, okay, we are going to say return x %2 equals 0. So this is going to give me true value if the number is even, and this is going to give me false value if the number is odd. Okay. So this is one way how you can create a function, and the benefit of using function is that it avoids code repetition and it improves the clarity and structure. So if I want to go ahead and if I want to find out whether a number is odd or even, I can simply go ahead and I can simply pass in func. Inside func I can pass in this variable 5. If I go ahead and if I print this, it will give me false. Okay. So this is the way how you can actually use a function, and this becomes very easy because every time you do not need to go ahead and pass this value over here 5%2, right? You can simply create a function and you can call that, invoke that function, and you can pass in the variables, the value inside this function, right? So this is the use of function, right? Now there is something which we call as lambda functions. Okay. Lambda functions are quite similar to the functions, but the only difference is that lambda function is a inline one line function. Okay, they are considered as an inline function because they are defined in a single line, and they are generally used where you don't want to formally define a function using def. Whenever you create def, right, you fix that function at the top, and then you want to use that function someplace else in the code. But let's say that if the function usability is only at a one specific place and nowhere else in the code you are going to use that function, in those cases using lambda function as an inline function is kind of very helpful. Also it makes the code look quite readable in nature. Okay, so how do we create a lambda function? So lambda functions are anonymous functions which are defined by using the lambda keyword. Okay, so let us go ahead and let us create a lambda function. Okay, and we are going to exactly do the same task as this func function over here, which is going to find the odd and even values, right? So how we are going to create a lambda function? We are going to simply type in the lambda keyword. We are going to pass in the argument colon, and here we are going to simply pass the return. Okay, now here we are not going to use the return keyword over here. We are simply going to go ahead and give the value whatever we have to return. So let us say x %2 equals 0, and this I am going to define it inside a variable and storing it inside a variable. So this becomes, df becomes my lambda function, and if I want to go ahead and if I want to print this, right, df of let's say 5, you see this is going to give me the same value, false, correct? If I go ahead and if I give it 4 over here, it is going to give me true. Okay, so this is the way how we actually create a lambda function, right? And this is an inline function. So let us go ahead and let us see some of the capabilities of this lambda functions. Okay, so first and foremost we are going to go ahead and see the filter function. Okay, let us go ahead and let us see the filter function, and then we are going to use the lambda function inside the filter function. Okay, so what is a filter function? Okay, filter functions, filter, map and reduce, these three functions come under the category of style helper functions in Python. Okay, so filter function, what it does, it filters items from an iterable based on a particular condition. Okay, so if I go ahead and if I type this filter keyword. Within this you will find that in the argument section it takes in a function and then an iterable. Okay, so let us say my iterable is an array and I am going to pass in a number of values, let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Okay, let us say I am passing in this array value over here, and I want to find out among these values, right, how many values are even and which all values are odd. Okay, so what will filter do? It will go ahead, it will take this array and it will process it on the basis of a function, and then it's going to filter out all those values which satisfy that function. Okay, so let us go ahead and let us pass in the function. So filter accepts a function. So in the function I will go ahead and I will provide this func, and over here I will provide this array, and I'm going to store this inside a variable arr filter. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and use this list as a typecasting, and then I'm going to print this. Okay, so now what this will do, it will go ahead, it will take this array and it is going to filter it on the basis of this function. Whatever is going to, like this conditions function will return true only if this is even. So this is going to go ahead and it's going to filter all those values which are even numbers, right, which wherever the condition satisfies, wherever the value returns true. If I go ahead and if I print this, you see it is giving me the value 2468. Okay, so this is one way how you can do it, right? But if you just notice that this function that you have written is only being specifically used at this only particular place, nowhere else in the other lines of code you will be using it. So there is no way, there is no point of you defining this function at the top. Okay, there's a much better way of doing this, and that way is to use the lambda function. So instead of writing this func, right, I will simply say lambda. Okay, I will pass in this variable that is x, and here I am going to simply say x percentage 2 equals 0. Now that I have done this, I have created a function here itself. Okay, so this is the advantage of lambda. If I go ahead and if I run this, you see this will work in the same way. Okay, so this is what filter does. Filter goes ahead and filters this array and gives us the value which satisfies this condition, the condition which you are passing here as an argument as a function. Okay, and the signature of the filter function is many to subset, that is many to sum. It takes in a bunch of values and it filters out some part of that value which satisfies that condition. Okay, next we have the map function. What does the map function will do? Map function is going to go ahead and perform certain set of operation on a particular iterable or on a particular list value. Okay, so let us say that the value that we have filtered, that is 2 4 6 8, based on the odd numbers, even numbers, right, I want to go ahead and I want to add 10 to each and every one of these values. So how we are going to go ahead and do that? Okay, so we can do this with the help of the map function. We are simply going to say arr underscore map, and I'm going to use the list, and here I'm going to use map. So map, again, it takes function and iterable as an argument, right? All these functions take one function comma an iterable as an argument. So here what is going to be the function on basis of which you are going to map it, right? So what is the operation that you are going to perform on that particular iterable? That is what the map function is saying. So the function that I want to perform is, now see, if I go ahead and if I want to, let's say, add 10 to it, okay, a value 10 to it, you will have to go ahead and you will have to define a function over here, add value, and then you have to create a function all right from scratch, right? So this becomes pretty hectic, and this is not even an optimized way of doing it, right? Because you are going to create a function and again you are not going to use anywhere in the code. So here lambda functions comes in handy, right? I will simply go ahead and say lambda, okay, x, and then I will simply add 10 to it. Okay, and here I'm going to pass in the iterable. So here the iterable will be my arr filter. So I'm going to go ahead, take this filter value, and I'm going to pass it here. Okay, So every value from this filter, right, 2, 4, 6, 8, will pick up 2 and it will add 10 to it, and then it will place it in the list. It will take 4, it will add 10 to it, it will be placed into the list. So that is what map will do. Okay, if I go ahead and if I print the ARR underscore map, if I run this, you will see it will give me 10, it will give it 12, 14, 16 and 18. Okay, so this is the use of map function. Okay, and the signature for map function is many to many. Okay, it is many to many. So whatever is the size of your iterable, whatever values you are going to go ahead and add into it, subtract into it, whatever operations are you going to perform in that iterable, that many values will be returned over here. Okay, so filter function signature is many to subset, map function is many to many, and then again we have one more function, that is reduce function. Reduce function has the signature of many to 1. So it takes the value, many values, and it performs an operation that reduces it down to one single value. Okay, so let us say I want to go ahead, I want to sum all these values. Okay, I want to sum all these values. So how I am going to go ahead and sum all these values, right? So I am going to simply say ARR underscore reduce, and since this is going to return me one value which I know, then in that particular case I don't need to use list. I will simply say reduce. Okay, and now if you just look at this, right, reduce is giving me this yellow zigzag line, right, which means that reduce is not defined, and that is because reduce comes with a package. Okay, if I go ahead and if I say from func tools import reduce. Okay, so reduce is a package, a module within this is a package within from this func tools module. Okay, so I need to go ahead and import this, and now if you go ahead and if you just see, the reduce also accepts a function comma iterable as an argument. So any this so all the style helper function has this basic format, function comma iterable. Okay, so reduce is there and it accepts function. Okay, so let us go ahead and let us define the lambda function. I will say x comma y. Okay, and here I will say x plus y, which means what? Now see here it depends upon the type of function. If you just place only one value, just like how we have done for the top two, right? If you just place one value and if you just think that this will work, this will not work, this will give you an error, because it accepts two arguments over here at least. Okay, because it is going to go ahead and it's going to perform a set of operations on the basis of like it is going to perform a set of operations on this iterable, so that it reduces it down to one single value. Okay, so over here I'm saying that pick two values from this particular array and just sum it and then give me the values over here. Okay, so I will go ahead and I will say lambda of x comma y, x plus y, and I will pass in this ARR map, and I will simply go ahead and I will say ARR reduce. If I run this, you will see this is going to go ahead and give me the value 60. So generally this is how we actually do filter, map and reduce. We first take an iterable, we filter it. After we filter it, we perform certain operations on that filtered function, and then we reduce it to one value. Okay, so this is the function of filter, map and reduce, and this is the way how we use the lambda function and not just a normal function in these kind of functions over here, right? So this is the advantage of using lambda function, that you can define, you can use that inline function in that in the very function itself, in the reduce function, in the map function itself. You do not have to go ahead and create a separate function outside. Okay, now if we are going to talk about the lambda functions, right, then instead of passing in x comma y, right, we can pass in arguments as well, in n number of arguments, right? So for that we generally go ahead and we will say lambda. Okay, we give an asterisk and we will type in args, and over here we are going to, let's say we want to find out the sum of the arguments, so I will say sum of args. Okay, and here I am going to, let's say, pass in a variable, let's say df is equals to this. Okay, and if I want to, let's say if I want to find out the sum of argument, now here star args means that it can accept n number of arguments over here. Okay, in the form of tuple. So df, I will say print df, and here I can pass in 12, let's say 23, let's say 34. I can pass n number of arguments, that is up to you. If I go ahead and if I place it if I pass it like this, and if I hit on run, you will see it is going to go ahead and give me the value 60 and 69. Okay, so this is the biggest advantage of using Lambda functions. Okay, so I hope you really enjoyed this session, and if you did, then please don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel, and please don't forget to press the bell icon for notification. Thank you.